Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. We have an incredible eclipse happening on April 8th at 19 degrees and 23 minutes in the sign of Aries that is going to be absolutely life-changing for each of us and for the entire world, in a mundane level. This eclipse is going to bring some drastic changes, unpredictable ones also, that are related to different areas of our lives depending on where this eclipse is happening. But for many of us, it will be a new person that will show up in our lives. It could be a person that's going to be removed from our life in case that person is not serving our purpose anymore. It could be a new career, event, education, even conception and pregnancy, and also marriage. I've seen a lot of people getting married or getting to know somebody during a solar eclipse, that's happening in their lives. Now, this eclipse is happening in Aries, so depending where you have Aries in your chart, that's what's going to be the most affected. And it also depends on what planet this eclipse is happening next to. And I want to emphasize that conjunctions, if you have a planet that is conjunct this eclipse, let's say with a 3-degree difference, I would say 3 to 4 degrees difference, so maybe 16 to 22 degrees. If you have any planets in Aries, then this eclipse might take the theme of that planet. And also, if you have any planets in the opposite sign in Libra, from 16 to 22 degrees, then this eclipse will activate that planet, and you will have themes that is associated with it. And if it's if it's Venus, for example, you may have a romantic partner completely removed from your life if that person is not serving you in your purpose anymore. Or it could be that somebody new shows up. And I've seen a lot of my friends actually have somebody new show up in their lives that they actually got married to during an eclipse. So eclipses are very, very powerful. They are life-changing. And I bet, a lot of us are going to have drastic changes, but mostly, or better said, the ones that are going to have the biggest change is going to be Aries, of course, and then Libras. And then if you have planets in those in Aries or in Libra, then you will definitely have drastic changes in your life also. However, we are still going to face something sudden happening, because we have the North Node here, we have the Sun, we have the Moon, we have a Mercury retrograde, which I've done a whole video about, so make sure to check that if you haven't yet. So we also have Venus in Aries during this eclipse. However, Venus is far degree-wise from the eclipse, but the eclipse is happening conjunct Chiron. So we have all these planets or points that are involved in this eclipse. And what's very important to note is that the eclipse is happening in the North Node, and that's why I say that certain people, things, situations are going to be completely removed from our lives if they are not serving us, because the North Node really wants us to get in the right path, in the mission that we have, and what we are supposed to achieve in this life, or at least in this period of time. And all of this happening in the sign of Aries, it's really asking us to take risks, to embrace bravery and courage, to become more like Aries, to kind of leave the comfort zone and embrace the unknown. This eclipse maybe is asking us to form a new identity when it comes to who we are as a person, or on the things that this eclipse is happening on. Like, for example, if this eclipse is happening, let's say, in the 9th house, then maybe it's asking us to form a new identity when it comes to the way how we study, how we pursue an education, or how we pursue spirituality. So if it's happening in the 6th house, then maybe a new identity when it comes to our daily routines, to how we take care of our health, our physical bodies, so things like that. This eclipse is also asking us to leave codependency, and that's because the South Node is in Libra, and Libra is the relationship sign. So the North Node is asking us to fight a little bit more about ourselves, like not in a selfish way, although it could be, in a selfish way. Like, for example, if you've been in a relationship that has not been serving you for a long time now, then this eclipse is asking you to to fight a bit for yourself and leave those codependency issues behind. If you, for example, have been in a business partnership to where you feel like your partner is not giving as much as you are, then the eclipse is telling you to stand up for yourself and embrace the values, the identity, the person that you are, so that you can remove those codependency issues. And even, I wouldn't say fight, but I would say face the other person. It could also be in the fighting mode, and I will explain why afterwards, because this eclipse is just fascinating. It's very important, but these are some issues that could show up. And Aries also likes adventure, so it could be asking us to really take on a new adventure, take on something new, get out of the comfort zone, start a new approach when it comes to how, we face things, how we go about things. And this eclipse is definitely a new beginning with the North Node that's involved here, and with Aries being the first sign of the Zodiac, and us not having another eclipse in Aries until we have the South Node eclipse, which will probably be in 9 years, I believe, which means that we are starting this new thing that will impact us for 9 years or even 18 years until we have the North Node again in the sign of Aries. So usually we would have, a start in the first eclipse, and then we'd have a completion in the end of the year when we get the other eclipse season. But this time we're having an eclipse in Aries, and then we're not going to have another one this year in Aries. So we just have a beginning that does not have a close ending. We have a beginning that is going to last for a very long time. It could be 9 years, it could be 18 years. Now, the biggest effects of the eclipse are felt to up to 3 years. And, they start even before the eclipse. We start to have those themes and those situations, but the effects of it could be up to 3 years, the very strong ones. However, again, with this eclipse, this is why this eclipse is so unique and so special, is that we're having a start that's going to last for a long time, and it's opening some kind of gates for us to start something that really means a lot to us, and just absolutely new beginnings. Because again, this is Aries, this is the first sign of the Zodiac, this is the sign of the beginnings. Now I want to go to the part of the ruler of the eclipse, which is Mars, and the ruler will be in Pisces, so it's going to be at 13 degrees, which is also a degree of Aries. So now we see that theme of having some type of initiation, some type of beginning, some type of, changing the route of things and approaching things in a different way, becoming more assertive, becoming more persevering. And I will explain in a while why we may even become so persistent in this new goal that it's going to last for a while. And again, the ruler of the eclipse is Mars, and it will be in the sign of Pisces during the eclipse. And Pisces rules in the collective level. It rules spirituality, refugees, the sick, diseases. It rules endings, spiritual people, the common people, the meek, the people who suffer, and prophets, religious leaders. So we may see some themes in the collective level of people putting a lot of attention in these areas. And I know, at least with refugees and immigration and things like that, it's being emphasized a lot in the United States, in Europe also. So we will continue to see those themes, but maybe they may be escalated, or some type of new approach may be taken towards them. Now, the opposite house of where Mars is also going to be activated, which is the house of Virgo. And Virgo rules medicine, rules health, daily routines, which will and may definitely get disrupted for probably all of us. It also rules... I did mention medicine. It rules holistic approaches to medical things. It also rules pets. So maybe we will see some drastic changes when it comes to these industries and these areas of life. Now, the other thing that's important to mention is that the ruler, Mars, will also be conjunct Saturn. And that's why I said earlier that we may have some strong persistent skills and strong stamina when it comes to this new beginning. And it's because of this conjunction that's happening between Mars and Saturn. It will give us the stamina and strength, bravery, and the desire to just keep going no matter what when it comes to all these things. And it may give us persuasive efforts and fighting without rest, giving us a lot of energy, a lot of stamina to initiate first what we want to initiate, and then potentially complete it. And this is going to not just be for a short period of time. This is kind of like the mark and the push that we have from the universe or from God to take on this new journey that's blessing us with stamina and persistence. Now, Mars and Saturn conjunct doesn't really have a good reputation. It can give us, build up anger, and this happening in Pisces, it could be built up anger related to unfair things, when we, have felt weak and taken advantage of. But on the other side, we can really use that energy to, channel things in the way how we want them. We can use that anger from the inside into something more productive. And that is the beauty that, we have here, that we can use the energy that's given to us. We have that knowledge to take the right path and take the right steps when it comes to starting these new beginnings. This is definitely not going to be easy, absolutely, because Mars is 12 signs away from the eclipse, so there could be some hidden things that we are not very aware of that might not be on our favor, or it could be that we take efforts that may not be in the public eye, or like it could be hidden from other people. But that is going to be, in a personal level, and it depends on your sign and in your chart, and I will make a video for each of the zodiac signs. But going back to this Saturn and Mars conjunction, it could be that in the mundane level, some things are secretly building up that we are not very aware of. And this is also the conjunction of war, of destruction. So we might definitely hear escalation of wars or announcements of wars, starts of new ones. And this happening in the sign of Pisces, it could be that a lot of these things could start in waters, in the oceans, and there could be a lot of strategies and plans that are just hidden from the public eye. At the same time, this Saturn and Mars conjunction could bring accidents in the water, and I'll tell you this, it has already started. I don't know if you heard about the Baltimore Bridge, but there was this ship that lost control, had their lights shut off, and hit the leg of the bridge, and the bridge broke down completely. I think it just happened yesterday from where I'm recording this video, but it has already started, and we will see way more things like this. A lot of accidents in the water, So I would advise to try to stay away from them. If you have to go through a bridge to go to work, I understand, but I would at least try to avoid it, at least during this eclipse season. Now, another thing to mention here is that, the eclipse is happening over the United States, Mexico, and Canada, but the remaining part of this eclipse will be in the ocean again. And with the ruler of the eclipse, Mars conjunct Saturn in a water sign. Again, I see a lot of things with the water, so be aware of that. Now, ancient cultures say that when there are powerful eclipses like this, wars and rebirths are possible. And I personally am from Eastern Europe, and this is part of my culture also. Whenever we would have a huge eclipse, we were told to, go inside, and as kids, because, obviously we learned nothing crazy is going to happen, but we would go inside and not to look at the sun, to close the curtains. At least that's how our great parents did it, and they would tell us the same thing. So that's what ancient cultures would say, and I would say it's not for no reason. Even in the Bible, eclipses were associated with earthquakes and, a lot of wars and drastic changes and misfortunes, in a collective level. But I also want to mention the possibility of earthquakes here, especially with that Jupiter and Uranus conjunction that's happening in Taurus, which is the ruler of the earth, happening in earth sign, and Uranus is the lord of earthquakes, and then Jupiter expands everything it touches. We might have the possibility of hearing about, large earthquakes. God forbid, I hope not, but that's also a possibility with the eclipse. Now, this eclipse is going over the United States, as we know, and as we mentioned. This is the second one that is happening over the US in a short period of time. We had that first eclipse in 2017. That was only 7 years ago, that crossed the US basically from west to east, and now this other one is crossing the US from north to south, and which means that the US really is the center of the attention here. We might have some drastic changes in the US as a country, but also in the world, because, as we know, the US is often referred to as the center of the West, and for a lot of countries in the world, they really follow the West and their model, and, especially the United States. And so we may see some drastic changes happening for the entire world through this eclipse, but especially for the United States. And something that's worth mentioning is that usually you can see eclipses from the same place every 375 years. Now, for these two, we've seen them between 7 years only. So this really is a sign and a mark that the United States is going to be going under a lot of changes, a lot of shocking maybe news, events, and I really hope it's going to be for the best. But eclipses bring drastic changes. Something that's also worth mentioning is that the solar eclipses really represent the people in power, represent the people that have, the leaders, the presidents, the emperors in all times, people that are in leadership positions. Whereas the lunar eclipse represents the normal people, the masses, and so we would say that, yes, this solar eclipse is going to impact the leaders only, but with the Libra eclipse that we had on March 25, we may have an overlap of these two eclipses, and that is because, as I mentioned in the beginning, when we have an eclipse, the impact of the eclipse could be for days, months, years, and having the lunar eclipse and the solar eclipse so close, from each other, I guess 2 weeks away from each other, we might have an overlap of the effects of these two eclipses, which means that both leaders and the masses are going to be heavily impacted. Now, I don't want people to have fear. Absolutely not, because this is happening in the sign of Aries. So if you embrace fear, you are already in the south node. You're not in the north node. The north node is in Aries, asking us to embrace courage, bravery, to be strong, to avoid fears. So, don't be afraid of anything. And the other thing is that this eclipse is happening with the north node, wanting us as a collective, as an entire planet, to really move towards something that is going to be in the benefit of the entire planet, in the benefit of all of us. So we are going towards our north node. As long as we're going towards our north node, completing what God and the universe has in store for us as a civilization, we are on the right path. So if when you listen to this video or to other videos and you get scared, no, don't do that. Embrace the north node, embrace the Aries energy, be brave, be strong, pray a lot, of course, especially with Mars being in Pisces, 12 signs away from it. Pray a lot, do your spiritual routines, whatever you believe in. If you are just a spiritual person, then you do your spirituality routines. And if you're a religious person, just pray a lot to make sure that you're safe, your loved ones are safe. But yeah, just embrace bravery during this time. Now, another interesting detail about this eclipse and why it makes it so unique is because it's going through the Nineveh cities, the 7 Nineveh cities. And the book of Revelation in the Bible talks about not having any signs in the sky except for the sign of Jonah. And what did Jonah do? Jonah was asked to go to the city of Nineveh, which was a large city back then, to ask people to repent. Now, people were absolutely crazy back then, and Jonah was scared. Okay, he was afraid, and that's why I'm saying, don't be scared, don't be afraid. And so he tells God that I can't go there because people will kill me, and it's crazy. And so what God does, he has a whale swallow Jonah, and then after he repents, he is spit out in the city, or into the city of Nineveh, and then he preaches people to repent. They obviously do, and they are saved. So I think that's an incredible story. It means that it has some type of positive ending, which could also be the possibility for the US and for all of us. Now this eclipse is exactly going through 7 cities of Nineveh, and it's also happening in the constellation of the fish. And so, Jonah was swallowed by the fish, and we have this eclipse happening in the constellation of the fish. And we have, these cities that have the same name. So, I don't think these are coincidences. It sounds, pretty crazy, but yeah, it's it could definitely be a sign. Now, going back to astrology, during the eclipse, when it gets dark, we will be able to see Venus, which will be visible to the naked eye. So for those of you that are going to see the eclipse, I'm jealous. I just love nature and all these planetary themes. So if you're looking at that, that's awesome. And I know that Jupiter could also be seen through the telescopes. So they are both visible. But especially Venus, when the eclipse happens and it gets dark and then we can see Venus, it could also mean that we have the chance to embrace the positive things. Venus is a benefic. Maybe we have opportunities to be good, to give love, to be generous, to be compassionate, to show mercy, to have a lot of passion, and maybe to show some type of impulsive kind of love and charity. So maybe, in this darkness, we still see that possibility of being saved and, still having some type of compassion and love and mercy that's shown to us or that we show to other people. I do want to mention that Venus will be in Aries, and it's said to be debilitated in Aries. In my personal opinion, Venus does not do bad in Aries, but that's my personal one. with Venus being debilitated in Aries, it could be that these positive things that we may receive after the impact of this eclipse may feel uncomfortable, may feel a bit impulsive, and we might even fight for them, but they are definitely there. And Venus being visible during this time could be a strong sign. Another important event that's happening during the eclipse is the comet that is passing, that's named Devil's Comet. And the name was because at some point when this comet was photographed, it had two horns, so they named it like that. But we might be able to see this comet as it gets dark. And again, in ancient times, comets have been regarded both as omens of disaster and messengers of the gods. They've also been seen as a traditional sign of war and death. Like that, like wrath would come to the people. Warnings of destruction. And I think that in the Babylonian epic of Gilgamesh, comets were also described as fire and brimstone, a flood that will come to earth whenever they see a comet. So definitely it's a sign for the world, for the United States, but for the entire world, that we are seeing through this eclipse and comets. Now again, please, no fears. We should not have any fear. Aries here is exactly asking us to remove the fears, to be bold, and to look at the future with bravery and courage. Okay? Aries and the North Node are asking us to embrace the unknown, to get out of the comfort zone, and to stop people pleasing. Aries will be conjunct Chiron during this eclipse. The eclipse will be conjunct Chiron. That's what I meant to say. And with the involvement of Chiron here, we may be asked to do a lot of healing, a lot of self-healing. This is in Aries. It's about the self. And Chiron is really wounds that never really get closed, never really get healed. However, these are wounds that could turn somebody from a wounded person into a healer, a teacher, somebody that can inspire others. And so the North Node with the eclipse and Chiron here is really asking us to try to heal our wounds, heal ourselves, so that we can have an impact on other people's lives. It is not only about us. I know the eclipse is in Aries. I said in the beginning that maybe we should fight for our own things, but with Chiron being there, we are fighting for our own things so that we can have an impact on other people. We can make a change in others. We can change even the world. And it's a cycle that is not short. It's going to last for a while. It's going to last for years, as I said in the beginning. The biggest impacts are going to be felt in the beginning, up to 3 years. But this is something that's starting, and it does not have an end until 9 years, when we have the South Node eclipse in Aries, or 18 years when we have again the North Node in Aries, and the eclipse is happening in this sign. So Aries is really asking us to embrace independence, to be self-reliant, and to heal ourselves. Okay, to heal ourselves so that we can inspire others and push other people and help them out. And again, the ruler of the eclipse, Mars, is in conjunction with Saturn in Pisces. So we might start things at the first level, at the inner level, at the personal level, but they might have a strong impact on other people. It's a connection between the first and the 12th house. First is the beginning, 12 is the ending. First is ourselves, 12 is other people. So we might start something that's going to have a huge impact on others. And I'm not saying that all of us are going to become leaders and get these huge titles and become famous and things like that. It could be that we change the world of somebody else, of people that we love, of people that are around us. And for others, of you. It could be that you could even become a leader in the industry you're in whatever area of your life this eclipse is touching and making drastic changes on. Okay, so this is kind of what I had for the description of the eclipse. Please stay tuned for the impacts that this eclipse will have for the 12 zodiac signs. I will upload that video soon. But other than that, I wish you all the best. Please stay safe, stay blessed, do a lot of prayers, do a lot of spirituality during this time, and I will see you on the next video.